I used to be in the 60s a part of a movement for Aliyah to Eretz Israel in Soviet Union. We had groups to study Hebrew, Jewish history, and we dreamed to go to Israel. That time it was impossible. No permission were given for tens of years. So finally we come to decision in our organization to make something drastic, to call upon attention of the world Jewry, world public opinion, for it was illegal and part of Soviet authorities to keep people like in prison. You know, everybody can leave his country. Maybe he's going to live in a different country. Why should it be forbidden? Anyway, we felt that the only way to do that would be to try to take over forcibly a Russian airplane, a Soviet airplane that would fly inside Soviet Russia. We had and we have still our pilot, Mr. Dimshit, that was formerly a member of Russian Air Forces. So he worked out all the plan in short details, knowing how the Russian Air Forces would react. And the plan was to buy tickets on a regular flight. And the moment the airplane would land in forest, it was a specific flight, then to try to leave the pilots, two of them, in the forest, untouched, without harming them, and go over the border. It was close to Finnish border, so we figured that we can cross the Finnish border for some 5 minutes and then go to Sweden. For Finland had an agreement to give away every defector without checking. So it was a danger for us to stay in Finland, to go to Sweden, and then to announce that the reason of whatever we did, just to open the iron gates of Soviet Russia and to let people go. We were arrested in the airport and got heavy penalties, but it worked. As you know, immediately after our arrest and specifically our trial in the 1970, the end of 1970, the immigration started. We got heavy penalties. I got finally 12 years of imprisonment in compulsory labor camps. But the very day I went to Gulag prison in Siberia, thousands and thousands of Russian Jews start leaving Soviet Russia. So finally, after 11 years serving in Gulag, we got over 300,000 Jews released. And I felt that it does make sense for me to stay more in prison if it brings freedom to other people. So it is how it worked. And being in a prison, we fought for our rights as political prisoners. For the Russian government would never admit that they have political prisoners. They called us criminals. And as a Jewish prisoner, for right of a Jew to keep mitzvahs, to study Torah, and to teach Torah. So we had our underground groups in a labor camp to teach people Hebrew, Jewish history, and Torah and mitzvahs. And it is how finally they found that I have illegally Chumash and a Siddur, that they confiscated. So my feeling was that I have to do something about that. For I can't permit that Russian authorities would treat me like this. I am a proud Jew, and I never permit somebody to harm my emunah, my beliefs. And so after a kind of hesitation, I come to a decision that the best way to protest would be to have a hunger strike, a public hunger strike. For normally a lot of prisoners, I don't think only in Russia, all over the world would have hunger strikes, for it's the only weapon that people have in a prison. But I understood that if I die from the hunger strike, the authorities would be only glad. So I couldn't permit them to be glad, and that's why I found a way to pass the knowledge of my hunger strike through the fences of the labor camp, thanks to a certain Ukrainian patriot, Mr. Zinovy Krasivsky, that after 27 years of imprisonment had to be released. So he promised me, we were very friendly, he promised me to pass the information of my upcoming hunger strike to my friends, refuseniks in Moscow, and I expected they will pass over it to Human Rights Commission in the UN, and it's how I will try at least to do. Also, I was ready to die, for I felt that it doesn't make sense to die for Torah. For it's like a certain procedures that we never give up. The Torah, every Jew has to have his Torah, and we cannot give up, even in a prison. So when I got finally a note from Moscow that my message went through, and people already know that I starting my hunger strike, I declared publicly in the prisons that I'm having my hunger strike, and I was told by the head of the prison, Major Zhuravkov, he told me, you know, you have to work. It's a labor camp. If you refuse to work, I will punish you not for keeping a hunger strike, but just for refusing to work, for everybody has to work. It means that he understood that after several days of fasting, I will have no strength to work. So I understood that I have to keep and not to give him any pretext to punish me for refusing to work. The pretext should be only one, my hunger strike for Torah and mitzvahs. So this decision gave me the strength, and more than that, I decided that I will never have a hunger strike. It will be like a fast, a religious fast, like a tones, ta'anit. For my feeling was that not by chance the Goyim found my Chumash and Siddur. Maybe it's like Ribbon Shalom is punishing me for before I decided to be Baal Tshuva, or better to say that time I was Tinok Shenishba. Anyway, I for many years wouldn't keep Yom Kippur, Tisha B'Av, or other fasts. So I decided it will be a religious fast. The fast will be like a prayer to Ribbon Shalom. See, I am taking all the experiences just to free Am Yisrael out from Soviet Russia, to give them a possibility to teach Torah, and give me a possibility to take my books back. So it's why I has the power to continue. And after 3 weeks of hunger strike, working under the conditions in their factory, in the labor camp, I was checked by a certain medical worker. They're not specifically a doctor. They've never had a doctor in the prison. And he told me, oh, really, you're having a hunger strike? So what would be the conclusion? They put me in a punishment box for that. For it's a crime, you know. And then to watch me why I'm doing there and try to break my will. For certainly when you are outside, you know, you're going around like a prison camp is a big place with hundreds of prisoners. Still, when you see people, it supports you. Now you're only alone by yourself, isolated completely. Maybe the hope that it will break my will. But nevertheless, I continued. And I set for me a mode of behavior in a prison. I thought to myself, if I will have mercy to myself, and I feel that I'm in a bad position, it will make things even worse. So I decided I will behave like nothing happened. I'm not eating, so what, you know? So I would do my everyday schedule, davening in the morning, and then trying to read something and make physical exercises. And it kept my shape well. So after 50 days of hunger strike, I had no problems in anything. I was healthy, I had good mood, whatever. Anyway, I believe it was on the 50th day of my hunger strike when the Human Rights Commission in the UN started discussing my issue. There was an American ambassador, Campbellman, that raised the question of a Jew that is going to die, for he would like to have his Bible, you know. But let's say human rights, you consider it human rights, he would say to Russian diplomats that the man would like to have his Bible, and you don't permit him, he's going to die for that. So I believe that for this reason, on the 50th day of my hunger strike, they come and they told that they will feed me forcibly, which meant they put bracelets on my hands and on the back of the chair, and bracelets on my legs, and then that wouldn't permit me to close my mouth, and then brought like a pipe, a gummy pipe, a very thick one, and start thrashing in my mouth, in my stomach. I believe that the head of the prison himself, Major Zhuravkov, come to see how I will, you know, being afraid of what is happening. I believe from outside it looked rather strange and horrible. So he come to see. But then when you can imagine me sitting like that and doing it, and they are throwing the pipe in my throat, he start whamming. He ran away. He couldn't withstand it. But I withstand it very well, for I felt the smell of the food. I thought to myself, push it, push it. So it was forcibly, but I enjoyed it.
We're talking about a terrorist prison. Why the doctor want to protest against this rule?
We have to remember that every hunger strike of this kind has political reasons. What's the political reason for this specific case to release this specific man from the prison and enable him to come back to his terrorist activities? So when we are speaking in terms of humanism, humanity, the doctors has no conflict at all if they are not politically biased. For every doctor, the main task is to save human bodies, human life. In this case, they have to save his life. If he is really going to suicide, it's their obligation not to permit him to die. Whereas from another hand, as I described, there's no torture. Force feeding is not torture. It is a regular medical procedure that thousands of people are going through every day. So there is no conflict at all. Only the doctors that support his political demand to be released together with all other Arab terrorists can speak about humanitarian issue. There is no humanitarian issue at all. It's their task as a doctors. And again, somebody that refuses to force feed is mostly supporting their terrorist activities. I believe that in Israel there are a lot of other doctors that would easily do the force feeding in a humane way, in a very polite way. They never harm him, and everybody will be glad with that.
So if you give advice to the doctor in Israel, what do you say to him?
You know that there is a sphere of Hippocrates, old Greece doctor, that every doctor is giving before he starts his practice. And this sphere of Hippocrates says that my task of the doctor is save life. So I say, doctors, saving this terrorist life, you will save our lives as well, of thousands of Israelis that can be harmed if we release all other terrorists just for they are having hunger strike. I will tell the terrorists as well, you would like to go back, sign and promise that you will sit back, will do anything against our nation, and we will watch you, and it's the reason to get free. If you continue your activities, why could you expect that we shall release you just you are having a hunger strike? You are going to kill us. So why we have to release you?